Well, just like you said, we are more confused. Well, the legal people would deal with. But I'm happy for one thing that people power prepared to go to any length without listening, interfere with the factors of production artificially, hoping that it will win against the natural economic force. For me, I am prepared to leave it until we get back here when we have worse economics.
That is what you think will happen with them having pushed through this budget?
That is what was going to happen.
That is what is going to happen.
Yes.
That they are fighting against the natural forces
of economics.
How?
Well, as if I knew what will happen. Day before they would have done this approval, I wrote something small on my Facebook wall. I felt strongly about it. And this is a discussions that have been held decades and decades ago about whether the marginal utility theory is what can work or the marginal value theory what is the best way to go. But I'm of the view that in all this, the greatest factor in there is power.
Okay.
Power for many decades and centuries have interfered with economics, hoping it will win. And consistently, power has lost. And no doubt, power will lose again.
So, to you, it is power being played out, not the interest of the economy.
No.
Because I recall when Osei Mensah argued on the floor of Parliament, one of the things he said clearly to them was they believe that they have actually insisted they cannot compromise the e-levy. The basic reason is that it helps in, perhaps, you're an accountant yourself, so balancing the book sort of, we get a lot more money. At least do the basic debt repayment is something. So you're saying that that is not what will happen?
There is nothing like balancing books when it comes to budget. What books are they balancing? It is more of allocation of resources and your appetite to spend. They are not prepared, even with the outcry, to go back and look at the expenditure levels again. They aren't prepared for that.
Expenditure?
Yes. You know, we've been talking about the revenue, and nobody is talking about the expenditure.
Okay.
And where we are heading towards with expenditure. Right. So, you have few items consuming the entire revenue. Don't you think it's about time that we rationalize our expenditure? Because that is exactly what we are supposed to do. What is the value, the real value of our expenditure? What are we getting out of it? How is it facilitating growth?
So the monies that we are spending, the ones that we spent.
Exactly.
What is the end product?
Exactly. And with these budgets and how the things have played around this budget, I am suggesting that they are doing just an incremental budget.
So, incremental last year?
Yeah, so they wake up and they said last year we spent this much. So looking at inflation and looking at other factors, let's push it up with another 10, 15%, 20%.
Okay.
And not really a zero-based budget when everything in the budget or expenditure line would have actually been justified to be in there.
Okay.
So I'm sure we don't have a lot of justification, or we don't have justification for a lot of our expenditures in there, and how necessary they are, how it's going to actually propel growth and all that. The concentration has been on revenue, revenue, revenue. Rightly so, because revenue are going to be generated through taxes. And this is what the people are going to feel. And this is what I started with. That's the marginal utility theory and the marginal value theory will play out. And I know what will win. What will win is the force, the natural force of economic. That is what is going to win.
So you're saying that if you look through our budget, all you see is government saying, okay, so this year the presidency got 600 million. Based on the way things are going, we'll end up spending, I think we should put 800 million.
Exactly.
Without anybody actually asking, so what are we going to spend the 800 million?
Exactly.
Exactly what expenditures are we going into? And why do we need to make
why do we need? Did anybody make a case for it?
Okay.
No, I don't think so. If they did, then certain things would have found itself into the budget. The Qatar issue would have found itself into the budget.
Okay.
Right? Other pertinent issue, which are expenditure related, would have found itself into the budget. But we did not. We wanted to prosecute a certain agenda and probably to leave some form of artificial legacy at the expense of our economic well-being. So, well, we can only wish this budget well. We don't wish it fails. But if I should use my professional spectacle to look in there, I will tell you that it will fail. But as a Ghanaian, I have to be hopeful.
So listening to you, what happened yesterday would have surprised you.
Well, surprised, no.
Why? Because you're saying that
Surprised, no.
This is a budget that if the managers of the economy were really interested in maybe reviving or bettering the fortunes of the economy, they shouldn't be pushing. But they are pushing. So that should be surprising.
But you should look at the core of people who form power in this current administration, and you would understand why I said it shouldn't be surprising. They are bent on pushing everything through because it's coming from them. It is of superior quality.
To move the mic closer to you. Okay.
Right. Because it's coming from them, it's of superior quality, and everybody can share his opinion. And it tells you if very key stakeholders of this economy comes out telling you that, look, we were not consulted on this, we weren't aware of that, then it should tell you the mindset of those we're dealing with, or the handlers of the economy. They know more than the rest of us, so let's watch them.
Is it a suggestion that you think that even, because there are people who are even wondering if the GRA made an input into?
Well, you see, whether they made an input or not, they will suffer it. We are missing targets, and we'll miss it more. We will miss it more. Look, in 2018, what was the basis and the reason for sending certain aspect of this economy or businesses under the flat rate system? What real investigations were done before the flat rate of 3% and subsequently 4% was introduced? I bet you no real analysis was done.
Okay.
Because if they had done the real analysis, they wouldn't have gone on that tangent. Now, today, they are reversing it. And what real assessment have they done? In fact, have they also taken into consideration, as this budget taken into consideration, the education that has to be done for the administrative changes? I mean, this government has had the most volatile tax regime, so inconsistent, and that is what is affecting our revenues.
Okay.
Because you would want to have a very consistent tax regime that taxpayers do get used to, and then you can improve on it.
Okay.
But almost every year, some major changes are done, which goes to affect businesses. And you expect to make the revenues you targeted. It is not possible.
Okay.
So if the GRA made an input or they did not make an input, well, again, we will see in the performance of this budget.
Because when you listen to the government, they say things are hard. And the tax measures are supposed to help. Benchmark values, yeah. That you realize that they haven't even touched the COVID levy, sanitation levy are still on, which means that they expect that all this put together will give them more money with which to work.
Of course. And that is why probably I need to explain further what I meant by those two theories.
Okay.
If you do take 2 balls of kenkey, you have to take 2 balls of kenkey to have satisfaction.
Okay.
And because of prices, you are forced to take less than 2 balls. Right?
Yeah.
That is negative in terms of utility. Now, if you have to go beyond and consume more, then of course that is a positive utility. The other aspect of this is the marginal value, where you would want to optimize whatever resources you have. So for instance, if your herds feeds around Latebiokoshi where we are sitting, and then for some time the grass are no longer growing here, so you move them to, let's say, Abosiokai, because the grass there have grown well for your herds to feed, right? That is marginal value. So you want to have optimum level, so you shift. Now, by human nature, if you are eating 2 balls of kenkey, and because of price, you would have to reduce your balls of kenkey. Since most of these taxes are progressive in nature, what is going to happen is that taxes will be retired. People will have to suffer a negative utility. So if you eat 2 balls of kenkey and you can no longer afford the 2 balls of kenkey because of tax increment, you will now take less. Now, if you buy 1 cedi's credit, if you take 12.5 out of that 1 cedi, you take 6% out of that 1 cedi, right? And then you subsequently have to take another 1.75% out of that 1 cedi. Then, in fact, your talk time of 1 cedi that you are used to, that when you buy 1 cedi credit, you are able to talk to your kids, you are able to talk to your mom. Now you'll be able to talk to only your mom, or probably only your kids. If you don't want, then you would have to add to it. Now you have to buy more than 1 cedi. Or you have to buy less, or talk less. That is the reality that everyone will face with this budget. When you hear people out there, oh, then we are going to stop Momo, we are going to stop. What they are telling you is that we want to observe a negative utility.
Okay.
What we used to enjoy for satisfaction, we no longer want to enjoy that again. We want to take that sacrifice. And when we take that sacrifice and we have some resources left with us, we would resort to the optimum use of that value, and that is the marginal value theory. So instead of dealing with A, I'll go and deal with B. Let me give you another example. You know the price of DSTV compared to that of Nigeria is high. Ghana's prices are high. So you go around town and the DSTV people are using is coming from Nigeria. So
procure DSTV.
Yes. And most of the DSTV you see in town, most of the pubs you see are coming from Nigeria. And people have found ways to pay in Nigeria to have the service here in Ghana. So the same way, people will shift to the most optimum use of their resources. And that will further affect an already worsened situation we have in Ghana. And if for that matter, people say we will not listen, we will push through, I think now it is clear who want things to be reviewed and changed for growth, and those who are insisting that they have the magic one. For me, I think at this point, we should let it stand as it is. The budget has been approved. Let's go on.
That the budget in the current form.
Oh, yes.
So we should just allow them.
Just allow them. God will give us life. We will be here. His grace will be sufficient. We will be here.
But like you said, people will suffer.
Well, that is the price we pay for putting certain people and class of people in power. Unfortunately, some of us are taught otherwise, but it has appeared to us that nothing really changed.
Because listening to you, you're saying two things. That one, people will be clearly, everybody will reduce the usage of
Exactly.
transactions.
Exactly.
So which means that typically where you say, oh, I have money on my phone, so you are going to the mall, you won't withdraw cash.
Yeah.
So you go and so that they when they say, oh, can I pay through Momo?
Exactly.
You know you can. You say, oh, I can bear. I can ask for the charges. I can bear it. Instead of that, somebody will prefer to go and withdraw cash.
Exactly.
Carry it there.
Exactly.
Go and pay.
Exactly.
At least he gets to retain the value
exactly.
of his
money. More so when the value of what is going to buy at the mall has been increased. You get me? Yeah. So he's going to look at every aspect of his expenditure and says, okay, this is where I am able to cut or reduce my expenditure. So I will take the opportunity to reduce. And at this point, when he's suffering from both ends, of course, then he will take the most cheapest of utilities to buy.
So the other aspect that I just hear you saying is that if the person makes that decision beyond saying that I'm not using more, the person is also thinking about ensuring that I have more money. Because you're talking about benchmark values, for example, suffering.
Exactly.
And what that means is that the prices will go up.
Exactly.
So people will spend less.
Absolutely.
So what you're targeting to get from even the benchmark, you won't get.
You won't get.
Because we will not import as much.
Absolutely.
But, and that is where I am confused, because if you are the manager of an economy, you should have this third-eye view, larger perspective, and not be looking at the small. What do you think is missing here?
Well, arrogance of power.
That is where you are saying power against the forces of
Yes,
economics.
exactly. Some of these things have happened. If you study the economic history of Rome and all that, some of these kings came and they want to spread largesse around and spend more and all that. They ended up devaluing their money and going into crisis, and the walls of Rome was broken and all that. This is the same thing we are repeating. And the saddest aspect is that we have never learned. We've never learned over the years. We've never learned. Nothing at all. We've never learned. And that's the saddest aspect of this all. We've never learned.
So there are lessons that we could have learned and used in preparing this budget.
Of course, there are a lot of lessons, even before getting here. And the lessons are very, very, very available. That you don't need to struggle to learn them. So that is the other aspect of this whole issue. That what is the real focus and intentions of government? Is it that we don't care any longer? Our term will expire after 4 years, and whoever takes over should suffer the consequences. I thought some people said they were generational thinkers in this country, that they are thinking beyond the next elections. Look, what they are doing, trust me, any government that comes after must clean a huge mess.
Clean a huge mess.
Oh, of course.
So the issue of debt, you don't see any way.
Oh, it will improve going forward. When I said improve,
Like the debt will,
oh yeah, it will improve.
with its resultant payments of interest rates going up.
Of course.
You don't see any way.
Now they will be desperate.
Okay.
They will be looking for money everywhere. You see what happened, and we went to certain salons for loans. Will happen again because of the path we have taken. Right? We will have no choice because government is bent on, I will spend at this level. I will not cut back spending. I am going to spend. You know, when COVID hit and we were presenting a position to the IMF for the rapid credit facility.
Yeah, the first one.
Exactly.
Okay.
Check that report. Government was cutting back on certain expenditures.
Okay.
Because of the cutback of revenue. Now, what happened? If you claim you are not out of the doldrums with the effects of COVID, what should you be doing? You should be increasing expenditure, and that is galloping against revenue. Mind you, our revenue was 70 billion in 2020, and by the third quarter we had missed that. So what informed you projecting over 110 billion? What informed that? The e-levy, the benchmark removal, the increment of fees. Well, for me, I am prepared to go with this budget.
You just want to see how it plays out.
Just so to see how it plays out. Whether for once power can win against natural economic forces, as against the artificial economic interference.
Well, if you just join us, I'm having a conversation with financial analyst Nii Yarboi Annan. In fact, this is the second time we are having a discussion on the same budget. He is warning that government is essentially playing the same game that other governments have lost in the past, and they've lost badly. Well, to the average Ghanaian, the e-levy is their biggest concern.
Yeah.
Definitely, because it's become a major mode of transaction.
Yeah.
Now, if your mother lives in the village, you don't have to give some money to be given to some driver. So the driver will take it to her. Maybe that will be a bit complicated. You can just send money directly. And the calculation is that if you send a little above 100 Ghana cedi, which means that if I send 101, the levy applies from the very that
Sure.
onset. Everything. For that person who is now thinking this morning, there's no way out of it. For you, you wanted to see how it plays out. That person should be worried, shouldn't he?
Well, that is where human behavior sets in. That person knows his income is static, probably. It's not moving. So if you used to earn 500 cedis, you would earn the same 500
You're still earning 500
Exactly.
cedis,
Most salaries, in all these issues cropping up, most salaries are where they are. It's not like salaries have been adjusted upward significantly. No. And because of the progressive nature of taxes on remuneration, you pay more if you are in certain brackets. So let's assume that you earn 500 cedis and you would give out 200 cedis as remittance, spend the other 200 cedis and save 100 Ghana cedis. That is if it is possible. Right. Now, and you are being told that this is the level that we are pushing tax or costs to or pricing to. So what happens to your 500 cedis, which had not seen any upward adjustment? That 500 cedis will think, if I used to buy pure water, now I'll be thinking of fetching pipe-borne water, cooking it, right, and taking it to the office to drink. And that is when people will look at the most valuable, what gives them optimum results in terms of what they have. If they are not prepared to cut down on utility, like I said, if that person eats two balls of kenke and is not prepared to cut it down, then you have to look for another type of kenke that will cost you less. It is not magic. The things about demand and supply, power has always tried to intervene to induce demand, right? And then that then affects pricing, and then power gets more revenue. It has failed in the past. We have tried to set prices for capital, and all the time people have reacted to it. So government comes on the bond market and says that if you bring me your money, I'll give you this percentage. That is when you realize that people who were offered more, like some financial institutions that came up, who were offering something more than what government was proposing, had attracted so much in terms of funds. And government did not attract that funds. It should send a certain signal to you that you cannot beat the natural economic forces. It is you cannot beat it. you can't do better than that. What you needed to do is to shepherd the natural economic forces and not to intervene. The result of every decision we have taken, we will live it. We will live it every second and every minute. So let's go by it. Let's live with it. and we would have learnt a lesson.
Well, as for the legal issues, I think this
We should leave that for the legal minds.
these are not necessarily our domain.
Yes, but well.
But did the government miss a good opportunity?
Oh, a very big opportunity was mixed.
Should they have? Because I was thinking, listening to you, should they have read the rejection of the budget as a defeat?
Well, it was not a defeat. For me, it was an opportunity to engage and share the responsibility of the budget with the minority. They failed to do that. And now they have placed the entire responsibility of this budget on their heads. Look, trust me, a quarter of those who fronted this budget will not return to parliament.
A quarter of those who fronted.
Oh, yes.
So you are saying that it is not only about the economic cost, but there will be political cost.
There would be a political cost to this. They should pray that this budget succeed. But if this budget fails,
and by budget, it means you're talking about the projections.
Of course. I hope they do have the courage to carry the things they have said they will do out the way it is in the budget.
And you're talking about things like the use stats that they are relying heavily on.
Yes.
But I also wanted to ask you, so what, because you're talking about expenditure as the very first item that government should be concerned about.
Exactly.
So if you were in this position, the very first thing you think about is not how much I will generate, but how much can I cut?
Exactly. Because in the first year of implementing such policies, you will not have results.
Okay.
And going for loans are going to be very expensive for us. So what you need is to close your expenditure down so that whatever revenue you generate, your deficit, overall deficit, will not be worse than like we are looking at.
Okay.
But if you fail to do that, you'll bear the consequences. Sorry. Assuming we are not able to raise the loanable funds we have budgeted in the budget, do you know what happens?
That is, we are not able to get the monies that we are planning to borrow.
Exactly.
Okay.
Do you know what happens? All other expenditures are off.
Which means even basic goods and services?
Yes, goods and services, all the projects and everything should be off. They will not be able to do it. So the sources of this budget largely depends on the loans. Because you have servicing of debt, salaries, and other statutories alone, taking the entire revenue you have projected. So what happens to the development costs in the budget?
And that's why you were saying, because you're talking about the failure of the budget, so which means that you're saying that if we even get to the point where we don't get the 100 billion that we are projecting,
yes,
and the e-levy does not generate the 6.9 that we are saying,
yes,
there's a serious challenge.
Of course. Of course. We cannot do any gymnastics with this budget, and now economics is everyday thing. We all live it. We all live it. Say now, if you work and your salary is 1,000 cedis, you can only spend up to 1,000 cedis. So if you go out there and because credit is available for you, so you said, I'll buy this, I'll buy that, I'll buy that, I'll buy that, I'll buy that. And at the end of the day, you bought all those stuff on credit. which amount to 3,000 cedis. When you have settled 1,000 cedis out of your borrowing or your credit, which you have, which is revenue you will earn, granted, secured. Let's say it is secured. If you don't have any loan facility to fall on to pay for those credits, then already you have failed. And that is what I'm saying. That if you are in a fix, as we are in, look, our problems will be compounded because anybody who will give you credit will give it to you at a higher cost. So we are compounding the issues into the future instead of facing them head on and resolving them.
So, in our case, we are not even. It's not like as if we are postponing them. We are compounding them, so we are pushing them
Exactly. Exactly. If this budget fails, servicing of our debt in 2023 will be very difficult. And in 2024, well, unless some miracle happens.
What does all what you're saying mean to the average person?
The average person should get prepared. I mean, this is the time you would have to be careful of expenditure and save more, albeit with a very weak CD that will also keep depreciating. So how do you save? It's a huge dilemma we are in. Because if you keep CDs on you, every day you keep that CD on you, on its own strength, is losing value. You see, what will happen is that we will break the 8 quicker than the 8 will be broken.
By their own actions.
Oh, yes. They will break the 8 at the fuel pumps, and they will break the 8 with the dollar. The 8 which they seek to break, they will not break it in 2024.
Be broken with the dollar.
Oh, it will be broken with the dollar. They will break the 8 with the dollar. And our fuel prices will also break the 8.
Because I think it was early, was this Sunday that I was having a conversation on show where an analyst also was of opinion that there's also the one part that we are missing, the dollar, yes. the CD against the dollar.
Yes.
That very soon we'll still see further depreciation.
Of course. Reserves at the Bank of Ghana has deteriorated. So they cannot intervene like they used to do in the past. Okay. In 2020, you say, oh, the CD depreciated by 3.6%, and it has never happened in even COVID year, blah, blah, blah. Well, consumption, they claim, was low. Right? So what are you talking about? Again, it was not natural. It was artificial. Based on BOG's activities. BOG was doing forward sales of the dollars. They were pushing dollar into the system. So tell us the price we paid. And that price we paid is what we are feeling now.
Price we paid to give the CD
a depreciating rate of 3.6% is what we are paying now. So yes, you can make it a bragging right and say, oh, and even in COVID year, we only 3.6. But what we enjoyed in the COVID year 2020 is what we are suffering now. So you cannot cheat the system. The forces are there. They will play out whether you like it or not. If the reserves weren't used then, the depreciation of the cedi would have been heavier in 2020. But what would have happened is that we would have stabilized it through natural forces. And that is more lasting than doing the artificial thing. BOG intervening, selling its dollars, reducing its reserves of foreign currency. This is where we are now. BOG should intervene so that we go back.
They are not in the position to do that now.
Oh, yes. They should try it.
So where we are, like you said, at the result of the choices we have made.
Yes. We are rationing today, we are rationing dollars, even at the BOG side. They know they cannot even meet the demands of the commercial banks. People who have imported are not able to get the dollars. In fact, the bank is selling dollar higher than you would get at the Forex Bureau.
Now?
Yes. Banks are selling the dollar at 6.5 and higher. And the Forex Bureaus are selling it at 6.4, 6.45. Yet the BOG rate, mid-rate, is around 5.9014.
I was coming to that because I recall I received a message from one of our viewers and supporters who was of the opinion that, you see, when they are sending money, the rate the BOG gives them is very low.
Yeah.
So, but they realize that actually if you carry the money itself, because they're seeing the exchange rate, the risks that people are using in Ghana.
Exactly.
That's against what the BOG is giving them.
Exactly. This is what we are talking about. And on top of what you have just described, they are now having to pay taxes. Those who receive this money will now have to pay taxes on that. So a further reduction of the value of their monies. If you have a dollar and you go out there, you would get, even the banks who are selling, the commercial banks who are selling dollars at 6.5 and beyond. When you have a dollar with them and you are taking it back, assuming in cedi, or somebody pays you in dollars, so they say you cannot take your dollars, and you take your cedis.
They'll give you BOG rates?
They will give you BOG rates, even less than BOG.
Is that nothing?
Well,
against the market forces that you're talking about?
Well, that is the interference. Look, we have created so much myth around dollar that it is affecting us negatively. And we seem helpless. What is the big deal? When an entity, when an entity actually receive revenue or income in dollars, and suppliers would have performed work and also probably charge them in dollars, because maybe the works they have performed depends on imports.
Okay.
Now the institutions have been asked not to pay dollars to them, so they will not pay dollars to these people. They will go and take BOG rates and pay the dollar to the businessman. So assuming the BOG rate that you have provided a service by importing some goods for government or whatever, the bank is demanding 6.5 from you. And then BOG says that paying you, restrict yourself to my rate of 5.9 without doing anything. How much have you lost?
That's about 60 pesos.
Exactly.
On each dollar you take.
On each dollar. So multiply it by 5 million if you have done a business worth $5 million. And
it's
look,
just lost.
and this is just loss. This is just a loss. And so, how much margin do you expect the businessman, through these actions and having knowledge of this, to put on his goods? That is why we have so much expensive products out there. That is why it is better to buy pizza from the UK and ship it here and enjoy it than to buy pizza here. That is why it is better to go online and buy books than to go to our own EPP Kingdom Books to buy books.
The same books.
The same books. That is why today, businesses that can go and buy stationery from all the stationery shop will leave that and import their own stationery. That is why in the construction industry today, they will prefer to import their own iron rods, cement, and other building materials, whereas we have the production sitting here. Because you think you can fight against the natural forces of economics. Well, let's see how power succeed. Look, it is not about MPP, NDC. It is not about majority or minority. It is about the artificial intervention of power against the natural forces of economy. And let's see who wins.
Oh, thank you. Now that we are in that arena, there's this question that people have always asked, and I don't know if I put it to you before. If you look at those government's numbers, you see a lot of monies coming in.
Yeah.
Oil, revenue, domestic revenue. You're looking at borrowings.
No.
The fact that the IMF is giving 1 billion alone
Yes.
is substantial.
Yeah.
Because I recall I was having a conversation with Honorable Setekwe, and then he said, if I had 1 billion, you know what I could have done with it? So that alone is substantial, plus other monies that are coming in this government. Simple question that everybody keeps asking. What these monies going? How come these monies have become debt that we are paying, but we can't see, like you say, the products of their spending? Where is this government missing it? Getting wrong.
Well, it is not just about the money that is coming in. You see, again, let's reduce it to the common minds, right? With regards to economics. Look, if you borrow and you don't put the borrowing into productive sectors, right, those sectors will not be able to pay back the loan.
Okay.
So for me, I have never understood this thing we call value for money that we do when we are bringing in projects. When in fact, what we should be doing is to ask ourselves, how quick can this project pay for itself?
Value for
What is value for money? If you cannot tell me how quicker the project can pay for itself, forget about value for money. There is no value for money.
they are looking at the cost of the project, comparative cost.
And you are not interested about the revenues that project will generate for you, the savings that the project will generate for you, as against the cost you are putting in. That is where the missing link is. The missing link is just focusing on, oh, a businessman will make more money. It will inflate the cost. Now, I have a project. The project initial cost was $2 million. Within time, now the project cost is $3.1 million. I'm going to borrow at the bank at 10%. when I put up my computations, the revenue the project would have given me within these 10 years is around 2 million. Right? In the beginning, I don't even need to commit to this project because the project cannot pay for itself. Now, if within 10 years, the project can pay me 4 million, then it is viable. Then I should put my money in. But then I say, oh, the project was 2 million. Without looking at all these factors, now it is 3 million. Let's do value for money and find out why it is 3.1 million so that we will bring it down, or we will do what? That is not the solution. Yes, if you have 1 billion. But if you do have 1 billion, what would you have spent that 1 billion on? Consumption? That is what we are doing. And that is why, if you project into the future, none of the projects we have done would have saved us, given us savings enough to pay back the loans we have taken. And now it has become a consistent attribute of our budget that almost every year on year, we go for about 3 billion Eurobond. It has become so easy. Eurobond, 3 billion Euro. And consistently, we have taken it for some number of years. This was not the trend in the past. So if you promise to do better, is this your better? Go and check the budget from 2016 to date, to when, from 2012, 2016. But check the budget. Were we consistently going onto the Eurobond market, and at what values? As against our current norm, that every year we are raising nothing less than $3 billion. Exactly.
But on the issue of projects, there are those who argue government does not only because of what it gains in terms of income, direct income, but also because of social good. Of course, there are lots of projects that you do because of the social good.
Well, that is something we will always fight around. You know, you will have the British and Americans saying something else, and then you will have the British and American economists saying something else, and then you will have the Austrian economists also saying something else.
Okay.
Now, the issue is, yes, the projects. And let me put it this way. I prefer sometimes not going technical. You and I, we grew up in the same vicinity. And there is one river in this vicinity. We are of the same age, same parents, same opportunities, same resources. We have 8 hours to fish. And these 8 hours, we fish 8 fishes. So you get 8, I get 8. So each hour gives each person 1 fish. I decided to continue with that. You decided that, look, out of your 8 hours, you will only fish for 4 hours and get 4 fish, and spend the other 4 looking out for an opportunity to generate an orientation that will let you produce something like a boat to go further in the river and fish more. So you suffered the fall that you lost. I was enjoying mine. Then you put up a boat. And then you go in there. And in 2 hours, you can make 20 fishes. When I come back with my fish, right? Then our parent says, look, because you have spent your strength, everything, knowledge, you've been smart enough to do what you did. Let's equalize. Let's share. So I'll take your 20 and split it and give the other sibling the rest so that you are equal. I'm asking you, is that fair to you? And this is what we are doing. Others, we are competing. When we talk about global economy, what it means is that we are competing with everybody. So if Ivory Coast next door take the same 3 billion and choose to invest them in productive sectors to produce cheaper energy for industries to come in and work and produce from Ivory Coast, and you use yours to produce only bridges and all that, that is neither reducing traffic so that we can save on fuel, and you go on that tangent and somebody else makes more and looks better, will you ask that we share? We are not competing ourselves. We are competing with other nations. So this argument about, yes, government needs to build roads and it is for social blah, 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 that equalizer is already there. Why is it that when I earn more, if I should be earning 30,000, I'll be paying salary to the tune of about 30%. If you should be earning 17,000, you'll be paying around 25 or probably 17.5%. Why? So that tax becomes the equalizer. Now, when you take more from me and you cannot provide the social intervention needed, it is your irresponsibility. You can't blame anybody for it. You can't come and complain that, because, well, we will need to provide roads in Mamprugu. So, look, it is only for social purposes. No. That road should be facilitating the movement of goods to make those goods cheaper, available to the market. And therefore, government, you would then make money out of this or savings out of it. When you put up a bridge that costs us so much, what you seek to do is to save us the fuel we burn in traffic. If this project fails with regards to what I have mentioned, the savings or income, then you had no business in the first place putting up those projects. With government, we are not saying that everything must be income related.
Okay.
But savings. Projects should save you people's life. These people are the people who work for you to actually get revenues. That is the need for putting up hospitals. Right? And this is the hospitals we are even paying for. When you go in there, it is not free. So, what is the real issues. We just don't want to be truthful to ourselves. We feel we have some magic to intervene in the economic forces and show economics that we can do better than your natural forces. That is all. There is nothing else. It's the arrogance of human that brings us to these points.
Well, let me then put some of the things that this government has spent. The biggest nowadays, they don't talk about it. I don't know what has happened. Free SHS.
Yes.
They talk a lot about free SHS.
Yes.
Is that something that you agree money can be spent on? Because they are also talking about educating
Educating the next generation to do what? Look, one of the greatest equalizers in this world is education. The only reason I can pitch my ideas and intelligence and everything with somebody sitting in the US is because of education. So, no doubt, education we cannot joke with. Providing it free for all is another thing. If my children are going to some schools around cantonment, paying some amount of dollars, and when they are done, government says that I want to pay 1,800 cedis for you a term. As if I cannot afford 1,800 cedis. Meanwhile, someone coming from maybe Sempe school in Accra, the parents' total income a month is probably 200, 250 cedis. Are you telling me that it is too difficult to identify those who can pay and contribute to our education? Yes, free. Is it the first time we are doing free? We went to school with people whose fathers or grandparents had cocoa farms. They did not pay fees.
your cocoa scholarship.
Yes. We went to school with notness who did not pay. It was targeted to alleviate the plight of those lower income persons. If you are suffering the consequences of your own policy because you fail to really look through the policy and think through it properly, you can't blame it on me and say that because education is necessary, so yes, we cannot be blamed for that. Yes, education is necessary, but your policy is bad.
You think free SHS is bad?
The concept behind free SHS is good. Administratively, how it is being handled is bad. How it's being financed is bad. Because I can pay 1,800 cedis. So now you know how much some schools are charging. So if I don't want to mention some schools, but they are paying more than everything you can charge. A term fee is more than what government would charge on full course recovery for a student for a whole period of 3 years in school. So what is your business intervening? Who are you helping? Me, the rich, or the poor? Who are you helping? So yes, the brain behind it, getting everyone educated, is perfect. Administratively. Do you know the term now? What term is the secondary schools on? Which term are they on?
I have no idea.
You have no idea.
Yeah.
I also have no idea.
It's confusing nowadays. Depending on which track you are looking at.
I'm sure if you ask everybody in the studio, you will not even know. So administratively, it's being handled badly. Finance-wise, it's being financed badly. Because once these are projects, flagship projects, you will front load them. You will pay for these ones before you even look at other projects. Are we going to actually gain the economic benefit of it right now? No. How many years basically mean 10, 15 years we will start having the effect of this policy? What will be the effect of this policy? Whoever comes out of the secondary school is unskilled labor. So if we do not ensure that they continue to obtain certain degree of education after the SHS or certain skill after the SHS, the investment you have made becomes waste.
So it actually imposes more costs.
Of course.
The cost of ensuring that they have the skill they need to succeed in the economy.
Absolutely.
That you have.
Absolutely.
Another one that is mostly talked about is the reason our great minister says we can't have food insecurity, that we can't have food shortages, planting for food and jobs, of course, supporting farmers.
Well, I think that's the biggest failure.
You're planting for food and jobs.
Oh, yes. Well, if we are buying maize at 600 cities, isn't it a failure? Look, it is not about standing on campaign platform and shouting nice policies. That is what every Ghanaian must realize. It's how the implementations of those policies are done. Look, the fertilizers they claim they were given, right? It was not free. The farmers were paying part, and government was taking part. So they were using a coupon system. So the farmer has to actually get money to buy the fertilizers at a certain rate. And then coupons are issued to the sellers, which they present to the Ministry of Agric, and take the other part. So it's a subsidized cost. Agreed. Now, when the food is grown and we have it in abundance, what was the policy? Ask the Agric Ministry what was their policy.
If we ever had surplus food.
Yes, we had surplus food at some point.
Okay.
Prices went down. What was the strategy of government or the Ministry of Agric?
What did they do with it?
What did they do with it? Nothing. They sat down. People drove in from nearby countries, bought our cheap goods, stock it close to the borders, and once there is shortage in Ghana, they brought it in to sell. So how wise is your policy? That is why I said it is not just about shouting nice political campaign promises and all sorts of things that will get you results. It's about how well you think through your policies that brings results.
Since I'm on it, let me jump to one other one that they mostly call one district, one fact. And in fact, for a lot of people, it was something that they thought sounds brilliant because you're talking about increasing the production capacity of a country like Ghana. Of course, that is good.
Yeah.
So one district, one factory should necessarily help.
Well, we've spent so much money in that regard, in terms of tax waivers we have given to people, assistance we have given to certain factories and all that. I learned some in cash and all that, supported with some soft loans and all that. Let me ask, when production goes up, right? Government, your revenues should also go up.
Yes.
So if for 4 years you have put money in one district, one factory, isn't it just for me to ask that provide me the profitability of the monies you have invested and the waivers of taxes you have given out? There is a factory producing water in Insawan. The factory cannot compete naturally. Then comes to government and says, government, I want to come under the one district, one factory. Then hooray, we put tapes around, buy scissors, cut the ropes and say, yeah, this is one factory under one district, one factory. We have given you these tax exemptions and this support. That will be buried without anything growing on top of what was buried. Because a person cannot compete naturally. And you have not taken time to actually investigate why that person cannot compete. You have made it one size fits all. You see, when we were going to Saito, when the schools were used to sew the dresses for us, so some of us who were small, you see ours very big, like togas. That is what this government did with one district, one factory. Giving one size fits all tax relief for everybody, when in fact it is not about tax reliefs. Look, there are people in that industry that are doing well. With all the taxes around, they are doing well. So probably what they need is the plants and machinery to do more in terms of production. They will need working capital. But you go there and give everybody a tax relief, and you tell me that it is a good policy. Yes, it's a good policy to have factories sprung up everywhere. The other thing we have to look at, those factories, what are they going to depend on in terms of raw material? Are they still going to depend on imports, or we have the raw materials available here in Ghana that they will feed on? Now, if they don't have it here and they have to import, again, what have you done? So it is not magic. It is pure economic science, and you have to learn to respect it. Failure to respect it, you face the consequences, and that is what we are facing. Let them tell us that we have put so much to this number of factories, and these are the revenues, and these are the growth of these factories. And then we will all be engaged. But at this point, it is very, sorry to say, useless.
That is useless.
Of course.
And what do you say about NAPCO?
Sina.
No, because I'm thinking, because this is, it was one of the things that was supposed to
Yes.
assist youth unemployment, at least in temporary.
How much were NAPCO employees being paid? 700 cedis.
Yes, yes.
Sina, assuming you work at Circle and you live here in Latebiokoshi, you reside here in Latebiokoshi, your transport cost alone from here to Circle for 1 month will probably be around 200 cedis.
Yeah.
So you are left with 500 cedis, right? How much will they feed on in terms of food? Forget about entertainment. They don't get entertained. They don't go around taking one malt or one club beer. Utilities in the month, your electricity bill, they pay another roughly 100 cedis, right? How much is left for the NAPCO student without food coming in? You eat once a day. So let's put that at, let's say, 3 cedis. You spend 3 cedis on food, which is not possible, but let's say that. Right?
Wondering what you buy
for 1 month. Exactly. Maybe you can carry on the corner without tatale.
Because I'm not calculating how much it costs to buy beans nowadays.
So, how much will this NAPCO guy save so that when NAPCO is phased out, they would have saved some money to actually start something on their own?
So, they should be doing that assessment now.
Of course. Okay. Now, the other option is that they will be taken over by the system. So they will remain where they are working and they will be employed in there. What that does is that our expenditure in terms of salaries keep going up when we are not able to generate enough revenue. So here I will tell you that they are not being productive. Because if you add 100,000 staff to your capacity, I expect to see more than I used to see. If I'm not able to see more, then how productive is the 100,000 people? That is it. As for NAPCO, I won't say it is a brilliant policy. It's an electoral policy.
Electoral policy?
Of course. It was purposely for the elections. So it's more than the one I described earlier.
I recall I recall at some point in time when I engaged, one of the things I reminded him of something I was sent by Dr. Baumia.
Okay.
Dr. Baumia was of the opinion that because they have managed the economy so well, that's how come they. So I think it was something that was said constantly. That the failure to pay those things in the past showed that the managers then didn't know what they were.
Look, I would say that the timing and manner in which it was phased off was too sudden. And probably that is where I would fault Honorable Setekbe on. Yes, this is something that people relied on to meet certain costs for them or expenses. So taking it off suddenly will bring some form of hardship to them. Because, of course, before entering to school, he's added that to his budget.
With that in mind.
Exactly. Now, at that point, what we could have done is to look at what were these monies being used for by the students or the trainees and try to meet them somewhere, halfway somewhere. But suddenly taking it out was what granted the MPP the opportunity to capitalize on it as an election promise. Today, if they have their way, they will take those teacher training and nursing training allowances out. But it is fact in terms of election. It's what they are looking at, and the reason they are not taking it off. You see, at a point we will have to be real to ourselves. The monies that they are actually taking Someone can use his for cocoa. Someone can use hers for books. Someone can. You cannot actually restrict them, right?
As to how to spend those monies.
Exactly. So it is possible that a chunk will go into unproductive expenditures. Maybe when the allowances come, we are so happy. We decided, boys, to go and sit somewhere and drink some bottles of beer. And before we realized, we had some friends coming around, and the whole money is finished. At the end of the day, the money would have been spent on probably alcohol. No growth. It wouldn't have been spent on books and all that. So what do? Instead of giving you A, B, C, D amount to go and buy some of these things, the reason why we give you this money, we will channel these monies into providing you these facilities, which then you government have a way of putting it in productive sectors and at the same time meeting them somewhere halfway, so that either to what they would have spent the money on, now they don't have to spend the money on.
Okay.
So we must look at it holistically again. There is nothing wrong being honest to yourself, having a very honest conversation about this. Because at the end of the day, it is cost. If you put up a business and I realize that this is my major cost, but it's not being productive, it's not bringing anything back to me, I have every right to engage whoever is the driver of that cost and say, look, let's sit down. I think if we do this, rather, it will help than doing that. Now the allowances are being paid. And how does your budget looks like? How are your balance sheets looking like? Has it improved your balance sheets? Has it improved the quality of education at our teacher training and nursing training? In fact, is it even adequate? So we are just pouring money out to save our face because we took advantage of probably some errors made by the then government. Sorry. And that is what it is.
Let me. I have to conclude with you. So let me ask you. Because we've been talking about taxes for a while, there's a comment that I saw on the platform. Unfortunately, I think I've lost it, so I can't. About this claim that's made by the finance. That's from the basis of all this. That only 2 million people are sharing the burden of 31 million in terms of taxes. So they are widening the tax net. In fact, ever since I started doing journalism or something, I have heard widening the tax net for a long time. I don't know how far they have to widen it, but they're saying that's the basis for, especially something like the e-levy.
I'm sorry, but I would have to say that. Very sorry to say this, but I think that we are not honest people.
Not honest.
Yes. Between Greater Accra, Ashanti, Western, do you know that Ashanti region put together with Western region do not contribute more than 3% of our taxes?
3%?
Yes.
In terms of
tax revenues. They don't. But we all know the business activities in the Ashanti region. Why are we not able to tax the Ashanti region? I know people will not be happy with what I'm saying, or probably about to say. But we need to say it at some point. Most businesses in the Ashanti region don't pay tax. Go and check the GRA in the Ashanti region. When GRA personnel are posted to the Ashanti region, it is like, oh, boredom. Businesses will come to you, the taxman, and say, oh, yeah, bibi mami. We are not honest people in this country. Oh, yeah, bibi mami, you will have to prepare some accounts. The GRA person, the taxman, will have to prepare the accounts for the businessman and just put something in and file it and all that. Meanwhile, every day, the crime you do in Accra is to put up an office and say you are working. The GRA is on your backs. You get letters upon letters. You've missed the date for paying this. You will pay this penalty. You will do that. You will do that. In other places, chiefs can intervene in tax issues and the GRA backs off. So what are we talking about 2%? When you yourself agrees that a large population of our people are into farming, do we tax farming? If you claim that over 80% of the population are in agro business, I'm asking, do you tax agric? So if you have 2%, why was other government having more than 2%? And you, in the attempt of widening the tax net, will it affect those people as it will affect those people who are already paying, the 2% who are already paying? What kind of logic is this? The taxes that have been introduced, how does that widen the tax net? If I have relatives in the village farming, the taxes that have been introduced, if I want to send money to them, who suffers it? Me in the 2% category, you in the 2% category. So what are they talking about? You have shops in Mokola and all that who don't issue VAT invoices. Who are making more than me, who would put up an office and rent that office at a cost. They have small shops. They are able to import so much. They sell so much and they pay nothing. Yet, widening the tax net, your effort in widening the tax net affects me more in the formal sector than those in the informal sector. So what are we talking about? Is it that we are suffering from some mind diseases or something? Because I just don't get it. And sometimes it's getting to a point where we have to be annoyed. We are not that hungry enough in this country. And that is why we have been taken for granted for a long time. But some of these things are unacceptable. What are you putting those statistics out for? When you know the real issues. Let government tell us based on population of our cities. Right? Because you have one vote and I have one vote. Yet the population in Accra and that of Kumasi and Western region and Ashanti region will equal or surpass even Accra. So if they are paying less tax, as low as 3%, just imagine the other regions. Bring the regional figures in terms of tax payment. And let's have a discussion. Why are you hiding behind population when you know the truth? When a taxman goes to certain places, they say, oh, in Pabuahini. This is for Impabuahini, so don't go there. This is for a Chehini, so don't go there. Yet I sit here and I don't have a Chehini, I don't have any relation to any Impabuahini, so for me, I have to pay. Let's stop the joke and get serious in this country. This government is joking. And I'm sorry, but the media also falls for it. The media has become like a woman with no price. Oh, you know a woman with no price. We call it at our side, Yenkonkwan. The moment you call the woman, no, it's finished. All the rest will fall through. That is what the media has become. Or I should say, the majority of the media have become. Don't you even see it on your front pages? Majority members approve 2022 budget. Majority reserves minority reverses minority decisions. 2022 budget approved. I mean, all the papers, all the papers, all the papers. Parliament approves 2022 budget. Let's go back and check when the budget was shut down. What did all these papers wrote on their front pages? Majority stage a walkout. Impraiso MP stage a walkout. So, sorry, but that's what the media has also become. Look, they don't ask the questions you are asking. Reku Brobe said something back then. That was when this hotel, this issue about Ghana going to Nigeria and getting oil and all that. And one journalist asked Dr. Reku Brobe that, Dr. Reku Brobe, you knew you were going to Nigeria to beg for fuel or oil or something, and you did not take a ship along. And Dr. Reku Brobe's response was that going to negotiate for oil is not like going to negotiate for a kenke where you can take your bowl along. Exactly what this media has become. Majority of the media no longer asks the probing questions to educate the people and inform them, because they have also their conscience. And like I said, they have become like a cheap woman.
Well, let me conclude by asking you, because they're talking about Japan now. Is this something you subscribe to? Because when I listen to the MPP people, there are those who are, they are always of the opinion that it's a brilliant idea. I don't know if you've read the documents and whether you think that there's something in there to be worked on.
Well, there is nothing brilliant about that. What is brilliant about that?
Because
we said before, putting money in the projects and all that. So if you are going to borrow against your royalties, what is smart about it? Now, let's put things in perspective. You cannot tell me, if you establish a JAPA, you cannot tell me the revenue stream over a period of 50 years, what we stand to get. discount it to today's present values, and compare it to what we would get now, and tell me we are profitable. And this is something where once it's done, it has no expiry date. So justify it to me that it is profitable today to use the resources of tomorrow's generation today. And how would that benefit the future generation? The resources we sought to actually put in this arrangement does not belong to this generation alone. So justify it to me that when you do a japa, the returns and what you are going to use the money that will accrue out of a japa will be used for something that will benefit the future generation whose resources we are using today. If you fail to that, don't even come. If you fail at that, don't even come to the table. Because you have not earned any space on that table to even talk. Forget about the save havens, or forget about all those engineering they were doing and all that. Forget about the perpetual directors and all that. We don't have a say. Our resources are going to be put in a certain arrangement, and we don't have a say who becomes the directors. Are we that? Anyway, it will be